We're very lucky to have another chance to go to a different part of Nairobi now. We're coming to you from Kabete area, and we've had a really great opportunity here to come and visit a good friend of mine and a man who started Cookswell Jikos, and he's going to talk to us about the history of the Jiko, how his dad was very much involved in creating the modern-day energy-efficient Jiko that we see out and about in Kenya. And then you might even get to sample some of the meat from one of his Jikos here. So Teddy Kinyanjui is the man who started Cookswell and is running the company now. So here we are at his place. Let's see what we can do when we're here. Teddy, are you in?
I am. Afternoon.
Teddy.
Hi, Jason.
Great
How are you
to
doing?
see you.
Yeah, you too, man. How's things?
Really good.
Yeah,
thanks for having us by. Thank you so much.
Of course, anytime.
It's really great to have a chance to come by here and check out what's going on in the workshop. Maybe eat a bit of meat with you.
Yeah.
See how good that tastes. So yeah, why don't we start? So take us through a little bit. Your dad was a Jiko maker or a designer, inventor.
Designer originally.
And then
Here, so I'll show you. So he started off with this original Jiko, which I think, probably most people in Kenya have, is the clay-lined Kenya ceramic Jiko. So the basic principle behind these ones, back before like 1985, all of the Jikos were just pure mobati. Okay. So of course half of the sheet metal, half of the heat would come wasted out to the side.
I see.
So now with this clay liner, it means that you're focusing the heat underneath the pot and not wasting it off.
Yeah.
So effectively it was using 50% less charcoal than the existing traditional one that everyone was using at the time.
And where did he come up with this idea? This was his innovation.
Yeah, so adapting it to local Kenyan conditions of cooking. So his original, he used to just tinker and make different types of barbecues in his backyard. He was a professor at the university.
Yeah, Maxwell.
Yeah, Maxwell, urban planning, And then he'd just make little stoves on the back. And then someone at the Ministry of Energy heard about him and thought we should send this guy to Thailand. So they make a similar thing, the bucket stove. But of course, Thai cooking, because it's shaped like a bucket, they do, stir fry and rice, not githeri and ugali, like the heavy things you cook in Kenya.
Yeah.
So he adapted that design with a clay liner to the local conditions. So having these that are very stable, so that you can cook, heavy foods on them. And then also small square ones for meat roasting places and butcheries and stuff. And then the sort of flagship product now, what this sort of all developed on into, were many different variations of these custom ones. And the biggest thing he realized was he traveled all over East Africa training people how to make these stoves. And he realized one thing almost every kitchen didn't have was an oven. And electricity either wasn't there, or very expensive.
Yeah, so we're going to see some of those ovens later. Huh?
Yes, and so there's one really big one here.
Wow.
So this is, you can custom make them into giant multiple.
This is what you design now.
Yeah, so this is what I designed
This
now.
is one of your designs.
So the idea of these ovens for small businesses, catering companies, hotels, restaurants, you can bake off-grid with just using a handful of charcoal.
Wow.
And so these, I've seen people use them from the middle of the bush in the Mara to all the way, on the top of apartments and stuff. And the idea is
phenomenal. You got all the options around here.
All the options. So what a lot of this now morphed into over the years, though, that we realized was with energy-saving stoves, just like with many other things, you get this rebound energy effect.
Yes.
So suddenly charcoal felt like 50% less expensive to someone who now has this new stove. Yeah. So you find new uses for it. So on a cold day when someone wouldn't warm up water to, wash the kids or something, now you have this nice new stove. It's easy to light, easy to use, very cheap to use. So you start finding new uses for charcoal. So you notice people were, making mandazi side businesses.
And the efficiency point, of course.
And so the efficiency point
slows deforestation. Which
was their main sort of key goal to work towards, was how to slow deforestation. But we started realizing on the sort of macro scale of it, this issue of rebound energy effects. So just like if your car used 50% less petrol, you drive to the coast twice as much. Suddenly it's cheap,
So these frogs, these are your design? I think
so the frogs are my design.
At our house. And wow,
I
really
remember that one.
Really morphed into something.
Yeah, so these have come, this was one of our original space heater designs. So there are two sort of versions of this. One that was just one above the other. Okay. And we started finding, and this has been almost a key tenet in our company after learning this, was we found someone on the side of Gong Road replicating them. And, the first thought was, oh no, well, he's copied my idea and we should go to court. And, you start to realize, A, that's not feasible, and B, in the context of the Kenyan Jiko market, things are pretty open source in any event. And so after a few more discussions with the guy, I realized we'd actually find it a lot more beneficial that we started working together. So from the original UFO sort of space heater, we developed the first frogs. And this was sort of
they
classic.
sell like hotcakes.
Yeah,
I was here with you for dinner the other night, and someone was coming by to pick that up.
for a dinner party.
It's perfect to set up your business at your place.
And these have been a very classic sort of customer sort of feedback design also.
Yes.
So the original ones that like you guys have, one of the first ones, they didn't have these kazuri bead ceramic eyes. Amazing. And so a friend of mine worked there and he suggested that. And the arms used to be out to the side, and the old chef at Talisman, Marcus, he suggested putting them up in the air so you could pick them up and carry them around. So all the small little niches on the design is
so like your dad thinking
feedback,
through all the little
talking to people. What do you want? How do you use it? Is it big enough? Is it tall enough?
You do the classic entrepreneurial thing here of design process, iterate.
Because when your customer's your boss, you have to. The customer says this,
what are these things we have over here?
So these things have tied into the sort of full cycle of the whole Jiko project. And the idea was, okay, now you have this nice energy-saving stove. How do you fuel it? And there wasn't very much research going into either improved charcoal making or different methods of doing it. So my dad designed these before he passed away, and this was sort of the entire, like the link in the chain for what we're calling the seed to ash cycle. So these are charcoal making kilns. The idea with these things is that you just chop up little twigs and branches like this, because this is what fits into a Jiko anyway, is smaller pieces of charcoal. And then you can make it yourself at home. So this big one, you can make a bag and a half in a day.
Wow. And
imagine if you own a small nyamachoma joint and you're burning through 2,000 shillings of charcoal every single day. You buy one of these for 14K.
On site.
2 years, 4 years, last, and you're getting a bag every day. So for us, this was sort of instrumental in what we've sort of trying to work on, changing the sort of ownership of the value chain of charcoal to the end user. So instead of someone like you buying charcoal to cook, beans in the evening, and that charcoal has gone through all these steps, all these middlemen, all these different taxes, informal and bribes otherwise. The idea being if you can plant your own trees, make your own charcoal, and then use it to cook meat, bake bread, that's a whole sort of sustainable energy cycle by itself.
And part of the sustainability, of course, is that you have to reforest the trees that we're using for charcoal. So
reforest the trees that you've been planned for it. So if you know that and this was where now our dads knew each other very well, and they founded the Woodlands 2000 Trust.
Exactly.
Was knowing the carnivore, people know nyamachoma has to be cooked on charcoal. And any other way, it's not going to be the same thing. So the long-term goal of it in Kenya in 10 and 20 and 50 years from now, where are we going to get charcoal from? And is it going to be sustainable? So that's what we're really trying to work towards as part and parcel of our business.
Great. So that's this other arm.
So that's the other arm now.
Which you have some here, or we're going to talk about those.
I'll show you some right here. So the idea with these things...
This is another of the businesses you've got
this has been a really big innovation recently. And the idea with these is, now with traditional dryland tree planting, it's very expensive to plant trees in hard-to-reach areas. So places like... Wow, you just caught that like an Olympian.
Those reflexes are still there.
So in dryland places, Samburu, Kitui, where a lot of charcoal comes from anyway... There's not many resources being looked back into how do you reforest these areas with the indigenous acacia trees. And so from our experiences, planting a small tree, you have to buy a seedling, that's already 15 shillings, and then dig a hole, that's another 10 or 15 shillings. So all of those costs, and we're looking at the scale of millions of trees that we need in Kenya. So we developed this, and the idea is pelletizing in a little bit of charcoal dust, which is from an old dead acacia tree somewhere, in tree seed in the middle of it. And this protects it from any insects or birds or rats or something eating it. And you can imagine, if you just threw a handful of seed on the ground, the next passing little bug or something would just cool it up. So now if you can actually pelletize them in this stuff, you can throw it out, it will wait year-round until the rains are hard enough, and then it has a chance to germinate. So our sort of whole thought is, after, all we're doing is we're protecting the seed from being eaten.
And then so the germination cycle, when it's small, the tree starts protecting itself as soon as it germinates?
Yeah, so like these ones are acacia seeds, and these acacia trees produce thorns, which help stop goats and browsers, and they're really drought resistant. So how we're marketing them is different people, you can get your logo, like a white label sort of thing. So if you want, J-Talk Live, and then you can hand it out to everyone you meet, you give them a small forest in a bag.
Exactly.
Or for larger projects, you get, giant 20-kilo sacks of them.
And you've been working with the Sheldrick Foundation in
Yes, Sheldrick has been one of them. So we're trying to think of ideally piggybacking on existing distribution networks. So someone like them, they're flying in air patrols every day. It's really exciting, actually. So they're flying every day to patrol the park. So they realized, why not take up seeds of the indigenous trees from the same area and just throw them out and just help for the elephants. You know,
have you followed the growth of any of these trees, or it's still quite nascent?
No, so a lot of the ones that we've done on like road reserves, and we can even go and check some when you guys come out, you'll see we've got about 50 trees coming up this entire Farasi Lane street from March rains. And I was just walking with the dog, you know, and just chucking them out. And again, the thing that really got us thinking about all of this was from our traditional standard tree planting thing of buying seedlings, digging holes. I was coming home one day, and most people will notice, you know, on the sides of the roads around like Mololongo and Maimahiu, there are all these acacia trees start growing. And those that were from a bit of research is from the sand lorries that are getting building sand from the rivers. And as they drive up the highways, little seeds fall out the back. So that got my mind thinking, you know, so if you could do that on scale, and this is really the scale of it. Well,
amazing stuff.
Yeah, so this has been very fun.
Photos of some of them growing out. Are those
so you can see, like this was lucky. This was triplets.
Oh wow, look at that.
And so the thing with like acacia trees, they do natural germination, and so we don't pre-treat them. We don't touch the seed in any way. We buy it from Kenya Forest Service, so they've done all the grading and checking and stuff. And then you know after that it's up to God. And the best thing is just get the seeds out to the right place.
So let's head over now to your Jiko museum.
Oh yes, here you can have this out here.
I think this is it really shows the evolution of the Jiko over time. It's one of my favorite spots in your place.
Yes,
pretty amazing.
So this again, back to this, you know, the original Kenya ceramic Jiko design. This is a replica of it. This is from Mali, this one. And when you look at all of these, they all share one common sort of principle. The design is similar of having a ceramic liner where the fire chamber is to stop the heat being wasted from the sides, a small door to control the high and low, so when you're boiling versus simmering, and then that they're cheap and easy to make. So these, as you can see, and I'll show you a selection through here. This one's from, where's this one? This one's from Ghana, this one's from Mali, this one's from Madagascar.
Made here, designed on that concept.
And all of them are designed off of replicas of either ones my dad taught other people how to make, or as Chinese whispers sort of work, someone taught someone else who taught someone else who taught someone else.
Okay.
And like this big one's from Senegal, this one's from Sierra Leone.
And this structure, so explain why it's shaped
so
like
this
that.
is this bell-bottom shape, and this is what keeps it stable. So if you imagine in Senegal, they cook really big pots of things like fufu, which is really sticky and you have to stir it with a lot of force. So that traditional Thai bell-bottom stove shaped like this, that won't work for that because it could tip over. So that was from a lot of feedback. Again, user feedback. My dad going out, doing little focus groups with ladies. And you can see that sort of best exemplified with this one from Madagascar. So they cook a lot of rice there, and they need a big air door to get it really hot quickly, but they don't need that stability factor as much as one from Senegal. And so the thing with all of these, you just need a pair of tin snips, a hammer, and you can even use old curtain rods to make the rivets from them. So you can make them all for $5.
Wow.
And custom make them to whatever people's cooking style is. So that's why these are hundreds of millions of them all over Africa, even to the Caribbean now.
So what else? What are the interesting
I've been collecting
pieces do you
all
have?
sorts of different ones.
You have a Weber grill from the
manufacturers.
States?
Yeah, one of the original Webers. Different types of gasifiers. This one's for briquettes. This is a flat pack assembly one. Special ones for just chocolate dust. Special ones for maize cobs. The evolution of the different ovens over the years. Some of the replica ovens. This one I'm very proud of. A good friend of mine, Gwilly Gibbon, and the Mount Kenya Trust. They took this to the very top of Mount Kenya.
Oh, wow.
And I'll send you a picture of it. This one was on the very peak of Mount Lanana.
Phenomenal.
And so, you know, all types from everywhere. So if you ever come across a really nice one in your travel, and anyone else, please bring them in. We're working on getting some laser cut labels and everything, so you can have it on loan to the Kinyanjui Jiko Museum.
Amazing. Great. Well, I'm getting a bit peckish now. Maybe we go and see what these
bad
boys
cool.
can
Absolutely,
do. Grilling some nyama choma.
Yeah, follow you. After you.
We can cut there and then move the nyama.
So this is one of the Cookswell ovens, and I'll sort of basically tell you how it works. So it's a charcoal-powered convection oven. So the fire goes in here. You control how hot it is with these two small doors. There's a small thing for catching ash. You can get an optional hot water system if you want, and so forth. And the sort of basic magic behind the whole thing is you put everything in it, and the chimney is at the very back, so the heat has to go around in a circle, so in a convection sort of way. So it cooks on the top and the bottom very evenly. And so they use, you know, a handful of charcoal every hour.
That looks like a delicious piece of lamb.
The chef had to check a little bit.
Yeah, you know, you have
potatoes. So most people actually buy these either like nyama choma joints and stuff, use them for roasting meat.
Yeah.
A lot more pork, actually, people cooking all over Kenya these days. But then mostly bakeries. So probably 60% of all of our business is business to business, from this size for like 26,000 shillings going up to the biggest 50K ones.
Wow.
And it's people running bakeries who are tired of power cuts or getting that power bill.
Yeah.
So like one lady told me she has one of those prepaid meters. When she was doing a day of baking, it was 400 shillings.
Yeah.
When she does a day of baking using the oven, it's about 60 shillings. So I mean, those price differences for small businesses, it's
really,
huge.
yeah, it's a huge difference.
And because it's portable, you can carry it down to the local church or sports field and start cooking, you know, fresh buns and pizza and all this stuff.
Amazing. Some good barbecues.
Good barbecue, absolutely,
yeah.
Well, I tell everyone, we invented it in Kenya, because if you think about it, that's where nyama choma comes from, is the Rift Valley. So.
Great. All right, so you're going to carve some here, we're going to sample a bit of this nyama. Just some cutaways of the carving, and then we'll sit and eat and talk a bit more. That's good, huh? Yeah, exactly.
Another day in the salt mines. I love it. It's very lucky.
It's really good. Classic nyama choma.
It's really good, isn't it? Yeah.
We should take it down and have a little bit more of a chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think?
Yeah.
We are on.
Great. So let's try some of this meat here. I've been trying it. Really, really good. And there's a eating here. We've got some chicken on the grill. This is a Land Rover grill that you designed.
So this is a new funky one. So you do
Novelty grill.
Daytime, you can leave it, you know, parked next to your Land Rover. Evenings, crank it up. And so we've even made them with the front little bit. Helps make the grill go up and down and stuff.
Wow.
Which is quite fun.
That's
so this
cool.
has been the most recent sort of like, my dad actually didn't design any of these.
Yeah.
The idea behind all of these is again with the ceramic liner though, of having that be where the chocolate goes so the metal doesn't all get too hot. And that this was through that guy I met on Gong Road who started copying our Jikos, and we realized from, you know, that first sort of meeting, it was like a light bulb over both of our heads. And, you know, he has all those big animals that he makes and stuff. So our first one was an ostrich, and the neck was a chimney, you know, and all the smoke comes out of its nose.
Where's that one now?
That one is, I think, at Hopcroft's farm, the very first one we made. But we've exported 2 of them so far and a couple hippos.
Where have they gone?
To someone in Maine, in northern Maine. Yeah, I bought 2 hippos and 4 little warthogs for his holiday house.
Unbelievable.
And your dad has one at the carnivores. So they
Carnivore's
had it
got
at,
one. We might check it out tomorrow.
where was it the other day? I think at the Damian Marley concert.
Yeah.
And a big hippo, life-size, completely, and all the smoke comes out of its nose at the front.
Wow.
Because, you know, growing up, I've seen all these really beautiful metalwork animals, but I always sort of felt, you know, there's form, but where's function? And if you're going to buy this thing for 60, 100K and you can't really use it, so that's why we developed into these. And what's happened recently is people who love their cars really love their cars.
Yeah.
So this has spun into an entirely different business
The
altogether. Wheels even move. These fold down to push it around. Little cutting board on the back, you know, it folds up and down.
Wow, it's got so many
Chimney on
cool
the top.
features.
You can put your charcoal inside of here for storing it, your fire lighters. And so this has been from a lot of feedback from people who love their cars. Like, you know, a lot of mechanics and Safari rally cars we've done quite a few replicas of. And these I love because, I mean, I also really like cars. So it's fun to do little cool working models of them.
Phenomenal.
Well, cook on them.
How about we try some of this chicken that's been on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think?
That's a great idea.
And Teddy, you've just been in Iraq presenting at a headmaster's conference there. What was that like?
That was very good. It was excuse me, one moment. A regional educators conference And so school's out right now. So there's 110 headmasters from all over, Narok North to South, and that was very interesting discussing with a lot of them too, because, you know, it's such a big county. Some parts of it by the Mao are, you know, it's like Aberdare, it's like green, rains a lot. Some parts of it, there's Narok South, very dry and open. So seeing all of their different experiences with wood energy, how that works in a, you know, schools type of situation, what their students and stuff are using firewood for, what their projections look like. And their enthusiasm for planting trees was really, really good. That's so nice to know that the headmasters of all of these schools and headmistresses, they all understand, they all grasp all of the concepts of, you know, rainwater systems and the ecological sides of trees. And so that was wonderful to be able to interact with so many people. As a naughty schoolboy, I did feel a bit on my toes with that many headmasters everywhere.
You might be put in detention if you're not careful.
I know. But it was really good. It was very, very good. And 3 of the products I took down there I sold on the spot. So one of them's buying one of the ovens to start baking with the kids at school.
Phenomenal.
And the guy who organized the conference got everyone a bag of seed balls, so 500 seeds for 100 people. Each, and so 50,000 trees, and also, so we've kept all the contacts so we can go and follow up and stuff. So types of things like that are very interesting for me as not only a learning experience, because you don't really know what's happening in that corner of wherever until you go and talk to people. What are you cooking? How do you cook it? What's the price of charcoal? What's, you know, availability of Jikos? All of these things. And then for me also, I feel like at least to go and share our experiences with, you know, how you grow trees, how you prune the branches, make your own charcoal. And so it's a very nice thing to network and visit different parts of Kenya's big. You really realize that once you travel more.
Get out there.
The evolution's helped, you know. You go to all these small places, things really growing, and
that's really great. Well, Teddy, thanks for having us come by. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you.
Absolutely,
Incredibly inspiring entrepreneur. I think the way you keep bringing this business, bringing these new innovative ideas, the way you take, you know, your iteration, your feedback, it's something I think a lot of entrepreneurs would be very, you know, they should learn from that process.
Well, cool. Thank you very much,
well.
Jason.
So thanks for coming back.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Thank you for doing J-Talk. This is really good that you're doing this. It's nice
feeding
to
us as well.
All the different things in Kenya.
Good.
Good. Cheers. Absolutely.
Great. Thanks again. We're here from Cookswell Jikos with Teddy Kinyanjui, and now I think we're going to go and enjoy a bit more meat.